President David Granger's address to the National Assembly has become sort of a routine. He does this at the start of every new parliamentary session. At the outset of his speech, he made it clear that the speech was not just for ceremonial purposes, but rather it was meant to address the state of the nation and set out his policy in various sectors. Now, the big announcement, if you could call it that, from today's presentation was the announcement that the Natural Resources Fund will be set up in 2019, just ahead of the production of oil in early 2020.
Your government is taking steps to ensure that the revenues which accrue from this sector will not be squandered, but instead will be invested strategically in building human and institutional capacity, addressing our infrastructural deficit, and providing economic security for future generations. Your government will ensure that oil revenues are prudently managed for the present and future generations in accordance with our objective of securing the good life for all. We shall do this through a Natural Resource Fund, which will be established before first oil in 2020. Priority will be given to investments in human capital, particularly our public education system and key catalytic infrastructural projects that improve productivity and bridge the divide between the coastland and hinterland.
The opposition leader, Bharat Jagdeo, acknowledged that the announcement of the 2019 date for the setup of the Natural Resources Fund was the only thing really specific from the president's speech. However, he maintained his criticism that the management of the fund is still highly political.
He did not address the criticism by the public and by the private sector. They had a civil society forum that, one, this Natural Resources Fund falls under the Central Bank, two, the Macroeconomic Committee and the Investment Committee are all appointed by the Minister of Finance. Central Bank reports to the Ministry of Finance that the fund is too heavily politicized. You can have the Santiago principles in place, but you have to ensure that the fund is insulated from political decisions. That is what is absent in the current model. He doesn't address that.
The president's arrival at public buildings was greeted by protests from sugar workers at Wales, where the factory was closed down. The president did use some aspects of his speech to deal with the state of the sugar industry, also announcing that there might be investors for the estates that have been closed early next year.
The Guyana Sugar Corporation has installed a board which met representatives of the National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited. A plan is being developed between them to boost production in the remaining East Berbice, West Berbice, and West Demerara estates. We have begun to provide training to sugar workers to become self-employed in various fields. Sugar workers have not been abandoned to an uncertain future. The divestment of some of the sugar estates, which is expected to occur as early as the first half of 2019, will see some of the displaced workers being afforded the opportunity to regain employment. We will continue to work diligently to ensure that displaced workers are provided with opportunities to participate actively in other sectors of the economy, such as the production and processing of rice and other crops, livestock, fisheries, construction, manufacturing, services, and mining.
Tabled in the National Assembly at today's sitting was also a supplementary financial paper which covers the severance pay for sugar workers, some $2.4 billion. Now that budget will not be considered until the end of this month, the next parliamentary sit-in being October 31st. The opposition had tried to get that portion of the supplementary paper at least discussed today so that the monies would be clear to pay sugar workers their severance by the end of the month, but that is not going to happen. For the newsroom, Neil Marks from Public Buildings.